Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. Today we have Josh Smith, who is a master knife maker from Montana Knife Company. You grew up in the wilderness?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
you could say that.
And now you live in the wilderness still?
A little bit. Probably compared to here, for sure.
Yeah, it's probably better than here. This is one of the best times of year in Montana, I think.
Yeah.
There's like my two favorite. Actually, I always like it up there. My two favorite times are when winter starts. I really enjoy, and then in the spring when the runoff happens. It's a little messy for a couple weeks with the mud and shit, but it doesn't really get as far as America, nature, God's country stuff. It doesn't get much prettier than that.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, the last few weeks have been, and I think it's been one of the prettiest falls we've had in a long time when all the colors are changing. Mm-hmm. The larch up in the mountains start changing, so you get that yellow through it's all evergreen during the year, and then all of a sudden you see all that stuff changing, and
and the snow caps start to like come down the mountain a little bit more.
That's where we're at now. Like when my plane took off yesterday, flying over the mountains, it was just like you say, those mountains are just capped and. It's beautiful. I mean, the last few weeks, month has been awesome. We're hitting that time of year where I really don't like it because we're in that transition between kind of late fall and winter, and the leaves are gone, and it's kind of just rather, it'll be raining and 35 degrees. I'd rather it just be snowing. Yeah,
it's different problems down here. We get false falls like 3 times.
Yeah.
It'll like right now it's kind of chilly. Yeah. It'll fucking be 90 degrees next week probably.
Really?
It happened 2 weeks ago. It was like, I think it got down into the 60s for a couple of days, and then it went back up to the mid 80s. Like what the fuck, man?
Yeah. See, we get that in early September. It'll be 88 degrees, and then 3 days later it's 50.
I don't really mind it so much, but I feel bad for women because they stow all their winter shit.
Yeah,
and bends or whatever the fuck for the whole winter, and then they don't know when to pull it out. So I don't care. I could just sit outside in the cold.
Yeah, the nice thing is in Montana, even when we get a lot of high 90s and 100-degree heat, but it's 55 at night.
Yeah.
So like my house, I sleep with my doors and windows open pretty much all summer, and it's awesome.
That's nice.
Where down here it just doesn't ever cool down.
How's it going up there? You guys have built a new facility.
Yeah, It's been an incredible year. We broke ground on that. I guess technically we did the excavation and the foundation right about now last year, and then we stopped for a while in the winter, and then frankly just financially had to make sure we got to a certain point before we kicked off the building loan. And so February 10th this year we started standing up steel, and it's a 51,000 square foot manufacturing facility, and it's different than probably any manufacturing facility you're going to see. I mean, it is really it's really nice. We did a really nice job on it.
How does 51,000 square feet compare to other knife manufacturers? I don't really know how big of a because I've seen even with guns. Sons of Liberty.
Yeah.
They produce a shitload of guns, but they don't have a huge warehouse for it or factory for it necessarily. They just got little L's running around building guns all day, but they produce a shitload of guns. And you've been producing a lot of blades with limited space, but now you're going to be able to open it up.
I'll be honest, I don't actually know how we really compare to knife facilities. I think we're bigger than most of them now. This 51,000 will be. I imagine Benchmade's is probably, I think we're around what they have. Maybe they probably have a little more. But I mean, I did walk through I've gone through in the last year. Smith & Wesson's facility is unbelievable, and it's massive.
Yeah, I didn't get to go over there, but I gotta go check it out. We got tied up doing something else, but how was that event, by the way?
It was good.
I love it. Mark good. And those guys are very cool.
Yeah, that shoot house and stuff they did was really cool. The range is really cool. I was really, really impressed with their manufacturing facility. I look at it different now that I'm building one.
Yeah.
And it is state of the art. I mean, it's really nice, and it's huge. The other one I went through last spring was SIG's, and SIG actually has several, but SIG's facility was also incredible.
They've had that shooting academy up there for a long time, so they're a little ahead of the curve on that stuff. And then the other one, what's the one here in North Austin or wherever the fuck?
Oh,
I can never remember the name of that company.
God, yeah, really nice guns. How am I forgetting?
I don't remember.
Oh,
it's not good branding that I can't remember their name.
God, I was literally just out there for the Black Rifle event this last year.
It's the one that Tulsi was at.
Yeah.
They do. They have I'm told they have a really nice range up there. One of our buddies works up there.
It is nice.
But they built theirs several years after. So I think they finished it last year, right? Or this year maybe?
Yeah. It's much, much smaller. But their guns are a lot more expensive too. I mean, they're high-end guns. I'm sure you'll find it, or I'll think of it. But can't believe I can't remember the name of that. Anyway, the from a manufacturing facility, what's unique about ours that I actually haven't seen in any of those other ones is we have these big glass windows, and we have a retail store attached, and we have a Black Rifle coffee that's going in there. And so you're going to be able to sit there and drink coffee right in front of the windows and watch things happen in the facility. And we're going to also be given tours. Evan Hafer with Black Rifle, I approached him about doing one in there, and he was all about it. And it's just going to be a totally different experience. It's not your typical coffee shop with like a drive-through. This is more of an in facility coffee shop, but it's pretty big coffee shop, and we did some things that are going to be just really unique to the location.
Like stripper pole?
Yeah, we should do that. That'd be good. No, just the way it sets up in there, and just the feel of it is going to feel unlike most any other coffee shop you've been in. And like Andy Stumpf has one up in Kalispell, and I really, truly believe the two coolest Black Rifles that you're going to see in the country are going to be 2 hours apart in Montana, because Andy's is also very unique. And that's kind of the point with Montana is people are coming in, they're tourists, right?
Yeah.
That's the main industry. Andy's store is a destination when you go to Kalispell and you go to Glacier Park. And I really want our coffee shop to also be a destination for people traveling. We're right along the interstate. It's an amazing location.
Yeah. And you've since the beginning of the company, you've always had this program where people can bring in their knives and get them sharpened and whatnot. But usually it's through mail. This would be an opportunity just to do it in person, I guess.
Yeah, that's been the bummer for locally. I had to kind of shut down the people coming to my house thing. There was just a few weird situations. So I kind of had to put the no trespassing sign up where we're at now. But like I say, 70 people report to work at my house. So with this location, you'll be able to drop your knives off. And if it's a sharpen or a rewrap on paracord or whatever, we'll do it right on the spot while you're there.
Yeah.
And so
have a coffee.
Have a cup of coffee. Hang out for 10, 15 minutes.
Are they going to put a merch store in there too? Because the one down, have you been to the one in Bernie? The Black Rifle down there near Jared's house? It's just got, and anytime I go to Bernie, for any reason, I always stop in there just to buy whatever new coffee mugs they have, because they make those really sweet handmade mugs. It's good that it's opening up like that. This has been a long journey for you though, as I guess you can't say it started as a hobby necessarily, but it kind of was for a while because you had a real job.
Yeah, I mean the knife company, when I thought about it for 20 years, and I registered the name when I was 19. But when I was about 39, I'd gotten remarried and kind of told my wife the idea of this company I wanted to build, and I was a lineman for the power company, and she was like, "Well, go do it." Basically, she had the house and the kids, and she said, "Get after it." So in 2019, I cut the first prototype blades out, and in 2020, February 2020 is when I got the first prototype Blackfoot knives made, and I was doing it before and after work, all through 2020 during COVID, and it was the last day of the year of 2020 when I quit my job, and so that's really when I went full time, was 2021.
But this started when you were a kid. I mean, you were 10 or 11 when you first started getting into it, right?
Yeah, I was 11. Yeah, I was a Little League baseball player, and my coach made hunting knives and would show.
Like he made them professionally, or is this something he did for his buddies, or what?
He was also just kind of getting going in his career. So he was an outfitter in the Bob Marshall Wilderness.
Okay,
guiding elk and deer and bear hunts.
I mean, that's America's version of a PH, right? A professional hunter, like in Mozambique and shit like that. Those are serious people.
That's serious.
And you can't get into that job. Like you can't Nepo your way into it, and you can't con your way into it. You literally got to know how to do that shit, or people will die.
People will die. I mean, you're taking horses and mules 15, 20 miles into the Bob Marshall Wilderness where they don't allow anything motorized. You can't even take a sawzall in there.
Yeah.
You know, nothing battery operated. You can't take a chainsaw. It's all hand sawn stuff.
What happens if you shoot a fucking bear up there?
What about it?
I mean, how do you get that thing out?
You pack it out.
Because usually you would have a four-wheeler.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, no, you're packing it on horses and mules.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, it's the real deal. So he was guiding there, and he was making hunting knives as a hobby. And I just got lucky in the fact that as a kid, I happened to start learning from someone who was about to take off on his own evolution. His name was Rick Dunkerley, or is Rick Dunkerley. He's not dead. He still makes incredible knives. But Rick was about to take off on this incredible evolution in his knife making career. So the entire time I was learning from him and trying to catch him, he was getting better. And so you just never, could hardly ever try to, get caught up to him.
Yeah.
But I started making knives with him. And then pretty quickly when I was like 13, set up a knife shop in my parents' garage at home shop. And then my dad enclosed a little lean-to for me, and I was very serious about it all the way through high school, going to 3 or 4 knife shows a year all over the country, Atlanta and Oregon, New York City, and I had a fair amount of success doing that.
You were the youngest journeyman knife maker.
Yeah,
and then became the youngest master bladesmith as well.
Yeah, at 15 years old, I became the youngest journeyman. And then the youngest master at 19.
What does that entail exactly? Because, a journeyman, obviously, if you know anything about labor unions, you know kind of what that means. It means you're qualified to be there.
Yeah,
right?
And that's really what it means in the knife community. So, to become an apprentice in this kind of in that knife forging realm, you join the American Bladesmith Society. You sign up, you become an apprentice, and then you have to be an apprentice for at least 3 years before you're allowed to test. And then when you test, there's 2 parts of that. There's a performance test, performance part of the blade, and then there's more of like how pretty the knife is and how well you made it. So on the performance side, you have to make a 10-inch blade or less that will chop a 1-inch rope in half in one chop, which just...
You've seen these tests on YouTube before. Most people have, right?
Yeah.
Chops a 1-inch rope. You got to chop out some wood as well.
Chop 2 2x4s in half without resharpening, and then that knife still has to shave hair off your arm. And then you have to bend that blade 90 degrees in the vise without breaking it, which that shows that you demonstrate control over the metallurgy, the selection of steel, your edge geometry on your blade, like all those things play in, and you have to have very good knowledge of what you're doing with heat treat to perform that test, especially that bend. Yeah,
metallurgy is it's would you say it's more of an art or a science?
Definitely a science. I mean, I think the forging part is more of an art form, but with metallurgy, if you have your temperatures right and you do the right things in the right order, you're going to end up with a good blade.
Yeah.
There was a lot. I would say that a lot of people would have said it was more of an art back in the 80s when they were less educated on it. And as it turns out over time, it's like, no, it's very specific about how you need to heat treat steel. There's I would say the construction of a knife and some of the edge geometries and some of that stuff is more of an art form. And there's some different variations and things you can do to get different performance out of the same blade. But after I did the performance test, I had to take 5 knives to Atlanta, Georgia, and I presented them to a panel of mastersmith judges, and they judged the fit and finish. how well you put them together, the
like
handles,
everything else.
everything's straight, not crooked with gaps and whatever. So at the journeyman level, just like as a journeyman plumber, you have to demonstrate that you're a professional. Like, you know what you're doing to a high degree. After you're a journeyman for 2 years, you're allowed to test for your mastersmith test, which is the same test but done with Damascus steel. And
this is steel you fold yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
And when you do that, you have to demonstrate, like, you go present those 5 knives to those judges, they're not letting you get away with shit.
Right.
Like, you know, and just like as a master plumber, like you're expected to have a deeper knowledge of understanding what you're doing.
Is there a minimum, like if it's Damascus, is there a minimum number of layers you got?
300 layers.
Okay.
Yeah, for your performance blade.
And then is there, to backtrack a little bit, this is all like, I really like to understand how technical skills are passed down, right? Because we suck at that sometimes.
Yeah.
But what's the formal process for understanding metallurgy? Like, I mean, certainly there's a bunch of different ways you could do it, but you just learn it from a guy who learned it from a guy, or is there a school for this shit?
So I'm going to sound old, but when I learned, there was no internet, right? And so in the 90s, when I was learning, there was 2 ways. Either complete experimentation, which is going to take you a decade to figure out.
Yeah.
Or there was going and you know, walking into a guy's shop. And there's a couple ways of this, like finding somebody local like I did. And really, honestly, when I was learning from Rick, he was on the you know, tip of the spear as far as actually doing the testing part of trying to figure out the metallurgy stuff. They were doing a lot of testing with hunting knives around steel selection, heat treatment. They were mixing in, which we still use to this day, liquid nitrogen in their cryogenic heat treating process. They were even putting like their face razors in the liquid nitrogen to see if it improved performance for shaving your face, which it did. So back then it was experimentation or learning, mentoring under someone in their shop. There's you know, combination of some books out there as well. There became over the years some schools. So like now the American Bladesmith Society has a school where you can just pay to go to a school in Arkansas and learn for a week.
This is like in person?
Yeah.
Yeah. They haven't.
And there's like the New England School of Bladesmithing. There's several different schools in the country now where if you don't want to knock on some guy's door in town and bother him, you can just pay for a class. And those are fantastic ways to get really great information. Now it's different. With YouTube, and we see this now. We see these knife makers pop up out of nowhere that are phenomenal. Like, where the hell did this guy come from? And he's been making knives in his garage and hasn't talked to anybody.
Yeah.
But the internet has everything out there.
Yeah.
And that's not something that happened in the 90s. Like, you would see guys coming for years. Like, oh, this kid's getting pretty good. Oh, he's better. Year after year, he's, you know. Nowadays, just somebody shows up and you're like, where the fuck did this guy come from?
It seems like now would be a good time to have a blend. I mean, certainly you can learn a lot of stuff on YouTube, but one of the things you learn from somebody who's actually done it is the mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's one of the more important things you'll learn in any field is how to don't make the same mistakes he made. You're going to make some for sure, but just try not to make the ones that everybody else already made because that's a waste of fucking time.
It's a really good observation. I've noticed that with people just doing that stuff at home, they miss a lot of the nuance about the why. Like, I can tell you how to do something, but you don't have the opportunity through an internet video to say, well, what about this or why is that? And you learn a lot of things that make you a little bit more well-rounded in your knowledge of the process. Because I see guys that can make something and they can make it very specifically like this, but if something goes wrong, they have a hard time problem solving themselves out of the weeds.
Because they don't understand the process. They understand the directions. That's not the same thing.
The other part of that is setting up your shop, like your equipment.
What do you mean by setting it up? Like in the right order, like that McDonald's thing? Did you see that movie, The Founder, where they're like trying to figure out what order to put everything in to make it most efficient and shit?
Yeah, I mean, really, that stems from like the Toyota way, right?
Well, originally it was GM with what's his name? I can't remember his name. It's the guy. They made him a lieutenant general. in the Army during World War II to take over airplane production.
Yeah.
For all the bombers in the
yeah, it's about a manufacturing efficiency. But within the knife shop, it's really even some of it is that. But honestly, we're talking more custom stuff. So you're not you're not building knives like what we're doing right now with building knives on scales. Seconds matter. But a lot of times in your shop, it's just the way that you set up your forge to run at the right atmosphere, and there's lots of different little nuanced things that are hard to just teach in a video.
Yeah. Yeah.
But lean manufacturing is what you're talking
that
about.
That scalability stuff is so important. People it doesn't seem like much. Like you look at your home water and electricity bill and whatever, and you know how much you make at your job. But when you multiply all that times 80 every second, like if you can make 1,000 blades in a day instead of 800, you've like saved yourself a shitload of overhead, man. That is your net revenue, by the way. That's the money that you get to take home.
Yeah, your overhead is what it is for the year. So the more you can be productive within that, the more, like you say, the more money you are going to take home. And that's actually something we're trying to teach our employees right now. We've had some of our employees go through like lean manufacturing classes, getting them to understand the why around efficiency. Like, for example, if you're sitting there putting together a knife at your desk, and you have a little bit of a struggle and like, oh, I need something from the shelf back there, and you get up and you leave your desk, you're not being productive.
You're
right?
contact switching. Yeah.
Yeah, but like if you have an andon light that you just hit a light and a light turns red, and you have one person moving around the shop the whole day saying, hey, Dan, what's your problem? While you're waiting for that guy to come, you're assembling the next knife, right? Yeah. Hey, I need glue from over on the shelf. Cool, that guy goes and gets it. It's little things like that, and just the steps. Like with this new manufacturing facility we're building, we've changed some things up even in the process. We did a calculation based on where we had sharpening set up in the building originally. We did a calculation on number of knives that we were going to build next year and how many steps it was going to take to get to that room versus where we ended up putting it. And when it was going to cost us 33,000 extra steps next year. And so we moved the room, and it caused us to have to spend some money on some electrical and some changes, but that'll be paid for in the first month we're in the building.
Yeah. See, this is exactly why I've been writing these summaries on Aristotle's Organon and this history of the Constitution thing, because we have, and I like the ingenuity that it comes from. This. I guess maybe just kind of an ego where it's like, I can do it better than anybody's ever done it before. I'm like, all right, cool. Maybe you can. But if you don't understand exactly what they did and why, then you don't know that. You're full of shit, right? And you're probably going to make a bunch of mistakes that everybody else has already made and learned from. We have this tendency to call things unconstitutional when what we really mean is, I don't like that. And those are not the same thing. You know what I mean? And it's okay to have that opinion, to be like, I don't like that, I don't think that's good, and try to figure out a better way for it. But to say it's unconstitutional is not accurate. And then what happens is, instead of using legitimate constitutional processes to fix that problem, we go outside of it, right? And every single time, no matter who it is on whatever side or middle that goes outside of the Constitution, it gets a little bit weaker. You know what I mean? So understanding the entire history from the Greeks and Romans, the first century Jews and Christians, the fall of the Roman Empire, all that stuff through the Middle Ages and England, English common law, the Scottish Enlightenment, all this stuff packed into one conversation to understand, well, you know what, it might be best, if it might be better technically if we do this thing, but here's why you don't, because this happens when you do it, right? I think that's very critically important right now, because people are fucking dum-dums. I don't
there are unintended consequences.
I don't think people are stupid. I just think that, one, we've been lied to a lot. The information about civics and history have been withheld intentionally in public education. I don't think anybody can question that anymore. And now people they're trying to figure it out. I think there's a lot of well-intentioned people out there trying to figure stuff out, and it looks like everybody's against them, even though a lot of them are saying the same thing in different ways. And if they would just come back to the North Star here,
Yeah.
they would be able to understand more that what they're saying is similar, and here's how we go from there, right?
I think from an economy standpoint, part of that North Star for our country is returning back to actually making our own products with American manufacturing. And that,
It's a complete myth, by the way. I read an article on this morning. This idea that Chinese manufacturing is somehow cheaper than just making it here, it's just not true.
Yeah.
It's just not true. All the ancillary costs, forget about just the freight, but all the ancillary costs, the additional costs we have to spend on security issues from them stealing intellectual property and all this other stuff, it makes it a wash. Just make it here.
Yeah, and also if you figure in what that company, making that product in America does for its community outside of just the making of the product, the wages that they pay and where that goes, the money that they donate into their local communities. I mean, I see just the things that we are doing in our community, and we're small compared to the big stuff.
Well, you guys are part of this thing with Bear. You guys, Born Primitive, Bear Handling, Black Rifle, some other people are going to raise $25 million to help vets pay off debt.
Right.
Like, that's not going to happen with a Chinese company. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah, and that's the with the North Star of the economy, I really do believe it's manufacturing, making your own products in your country. And for some reason, everyone was telling me that it wasn't possible to compete with China and make a product like we're making in this country and sell it. And
they at least wanted you to get your steel from there. There's always, well, at least you got to do this. You got to at least do that, right?
Yeah, and even the making of the entire product under one roof. My own board advised against what I'm doing in the beginning. Like, our own board of directors was like, well, leave that to the experts that do, say, heat treating. Leave that to the experts that do laser work. Like, you just do this part in your shop, bring in those parts and assemble them. And honestly, that's how we had to start the company. When you start a company in your garage, you don't have milling machines and engineers and all this stuff. So
we've started a bunch of companies in our garages that are now pretty well-known companies, and they all did not, like, I if I had the money back then, I would not have done that, but that's not how it was. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. And so you start with what you can, but I've been attacking every process and trying to bring it in our shop to actually control. And in this new facility that we're launching, in January, we are going to control from the cutting of the steel all the way through, and this is what makes us really unique, all the way through the shipping of the package. So everyone's like, hey, you have to use a 3PL. You can't do it yourself. Well, we are seeing what it's costing us to ship a package, and that extra level of customer service, it's absolutely worth it, because when somebody spends their money, we're shipping that knife out the same day or at the latest the next day.
This is another lesson learned from understanding the process. Yes, it costs more to do that. However, it costs 7 times more to create a new customer than it does to keep an existing one.
There you go.
Right? 7 times more. And even when you fuck up, this is, people that are in business should know this, because it's literally in every business school textbook that you're going to read. Every fuck up is a customer service opportunity to make that person not just a customer for life, but a firebrand for your, like, hey, Montana Knife did this, but then they fucking blah 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 blah, and everybody hears that and goes and buys knives. So not only have you amplified your marketing for free, by the way, you've amplified, especially in the social media age, you've turned a negative into a positive, and you're 7 times more likely to create positive revenue into the future. This episode is brought to you by Cape. Traditional carriers like AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile have made headlines again and again for data breaches and surveillance scandals. These companies are often ISP conglomerates whose business models go beyond providing you with connectivity to actively collecting and selling your personal data to ad networks and data brokers, and that's why you're getting weird phone calls and emails all the time. Well, many people use tools like VPNs, as do I, encrypted messenger apps, private browsers, etc., to protect themselves, but app-based solutions can't fix vulnerabilities at the network level. Once the data transmits over the line, then you lose some control over it. And this is where Cape comes in. Founded in 2022 by experts in telecom, cybersecurity, and national security, Cape is a secure mobile carrier providing premium cellular service just like AT&T or Verizon, but designed with privacy and security as its first principle. It has all sorts of features like minimal data collection, SIM swap protection, enhanced signaling protection, which is systems are designed for operability, not security. These are designed for security. Encrypted voicemail protects a lot of your sensitive info. And then private payment, card info is tokenized and you don't have to provide additional info. So CAPE is an MVNO, which means we lease access to major carrier infrastructure, just like Mint Mobile, just like T-Mobile's infrastructure. They lease T-Mobile's infrastructure. However, most American MVNOs are quote-unquote light MVNOs. This means that while the MVNO may present as a different company, the underlying mobile core and subscriber SIMs are still from the underlying carrier, which means you are subject to whatever infrastructure problems that T-Mobile or whomever else has. CAPE is a heavy MVNO. This means that while we also lease access to physical infrastructure from other carriers, we actually own our own mobile core and provision our own SIMs. CAPE is the only privacy-focused carrier in the country that owns and operates its own mobile core. No other carrier provides this set of capabilities. They take security seriously. They partner with Proton, the email service you've probably heard of, Proton Mail, EFF. They partner with Graphene, which we use for payment processing already. So if this all sounds good to you and you want to protect yourself against security breaches, go to cape.co/citizen and use the code CITIZEN33 for 33% off CAPE for 6 months. Again, that's cape, cape.co/citizen. Use the code CITIZEN33 for 33% off CAPE for 6 months.
You're exactly right on that. And an example of that is like my wife runs our fulfillment and customer service. If we send out a large instead of an XL and somebody writes in and they're like, "Hey, stupid, you sent me the wrong size shirt," she'll apologize. We'll get that shirt out today, and hey, that shirt that we sent you, give that to somebody that you think would want to wear it. And they're like, "Oh, I don't have to go through returning it and a label." And they're like, "Wow, that's amazing. Like they let me keep that shirt," and they give it to their kid. And it turns into a positive, and just owning up to the fact that like you are going to screw up when you're shipping out hundreds of thousands of packages a year, you're going to have screw ups.
Yeah.
I also think what is unique about American manufacturing, or what we're doing that's unique, that I think other manufacturers are going to start seeing and copying a little bit more, is part of why you buy a product is just for the product. But a lot of the reason you buy a product is because of who was behind it, who made it. And I'm not necessarily saying that's me. I'm saying when you watch our vlog, like on every Friday, we launch our vlog for the week from things we were doing this week, and we highlight all of our employees in that. And people start to resonate with, oh, that Tristan kid that I started following at MKC, he just hiked in 12 miles and killed an elk and carried it out on his back. Aiden is this whitewater rafter guy that's like a freaking savage going off waterfalls. And Brent's our Green Beret that's done amazing shit overseas. The customer starts to connect with the brand as a whole, with the employees behind the scenes. And you can't tell me things. You go into Target and you buy something and you carry it home. You have no idea who made it.
Yeah, people like that. I mean, it's because I think we're this is about understanding humanity. We are communal creatures, right? We need to be around each other, and it makes us feel a sense of pride and ownership. I think when somebody we're familiar with is producing a quality product, we're going to use, because with coffee, it's, if you can make good coffee, you can run a successful business to a point, right? Like there's a ceiling on anything, but 63% of Americans drink 1 cup of coffee a day. That's the biggest total addressable market other than fucking water that I can think of.
Yeah.
Beds maybe, but you only buy a bed every 5 years. For consumable products, water and coffee are the top 2, and it's not even close. So if you can say, one, produce a good product, 100%. There's no excuse for not producing a good product. However, in addition to that, you can say, not only did I produce a good product, but here's the guy who did it. And he, likes the same shit you do. That's affinity-based marketing, just like it is advertising at a fucking football game, And just the outsourcing of everything. I was talking to a dude on my flight this morning, actually. He's a union delegate. He's an organizer trying to get people in Texas unionize so they can, this is the left, by the way, so they can block out illegal immigrants from taking all the construction jobs in Texas. That's his job. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I agree, dude.
Yeah.
Like I've never personally been in a union before, but if there's one reason for it to exist, it's that shit right there.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's also this myth that illegal labor is cheaper in the long run is just not true.
Yeah.
Because they make shittier stuff.
Yeah.
Right? These houses that were built 5 years ago are not the same quality as the ones that were built 25 years ago.
Right, by craftsmen.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you go into a house that was built 25 years ago and it's got, like, let's say just for the sake of argument, they both got fresh paint jobs on them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You go into a house 25 years ago versus 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago and look at the difference. I'm telling you, it's not even close.
Yeah.
I've lived in both of those houses.
No, I agree. I actually think on the union side, I think the Republicans in the last several years have really missed an opportunity to speak better to the union stuff, because I was pretty anti-union, but when I went to work as a lineman, I ended up having to join the IBEW and went through a union apprenticeship. And I actually knew a kid from our local area that got a non-union apprenticeship in Texas, doing the same job I was doing, and we all tried to warn him, but he was very excited about the fact that he was getting lots of hours and he was flying through his apprenticeship, and he ended up taking 7,000 volts in through the hand and out through his foot. And the point of those unions originally was to take care of the worker and worker conditions.
Same thing. The NRA's first job was to teach kids how to responsibly use hunting rifles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And we as a union worker, it's to prevent the company from saying, hey, you and Dan, go do this job.
Yeah.
When it's completely unsafe to do. Like, we need a 4-man crew to do that job. And I will say, most of the union guys that I was around and involved with as a lineman, it was a brotherhood that you looked out for each other. It's as close, I think, to the military that career is. It's as close to the military as you're going to find outside the military.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of people dying as truck drivers or plumbers.
Right.
But, when you're working on active electrical lines.
When you and I are in a bucket truck together, it's my job to watch your back and tell you, hey, Dan, watch your back, And if I tell you, hey, this line is dead over there, go do this, I have to be able to trust, or you have to be able to trust my word, right? Yeah. And so it's a real brotherhood. But what I will say with that is, most of those union guys I worked around were Trump supporters.
Yeah, that's always been the case, though. When it comes to not public employees or teachers unions, but all of the other, nurses too, but all the other unions other than those three primarily are the members are all Republican, but somehow the leadership is all Democrat. That's how it's been for years, and I agree with you. It's a total. Well, I don't think the opportunity's over yet, because I think over the next couple of years, a lot more American manufacturing is going to show back up here. Yeah. And it's going to be a really hard sell for Democrats to say, you owe us your vote at this point. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially for any of the trade unions. How do you make that case?
Well, I think similarly in the teachers union, there are a lot of teachers, at least in our, granted, I live in a more conservative area, but my wife was a teacher for, 15 years. My daughter is a brand new teacher this year, making a ridiculously low wage to be a teacher to try to educate our next generation of students. And I guarantee you, if you went to teachers and said, we're going to raise your pay by 30%, but we're going to get rid of tenure. Any good teacher is going to sign up for that, because they're not worried about getting fired, and we're going to start. And it's not necessarily teachers' fault of all this bullshit that's coming down from on high of what they're pushing for these programs. Again, now granted, there might be, I'm sure it's different in California, but most teachers I know and talk to in our part of the country want to educate students in the right way, and also need to make, a better living, frankly. But they would all be willing to trade tenure and a guaranteed salary for a higher salary.
Well, I mean, right now the average public primary educator, that is to say K through 12, is spending $500 to $800 of their own money a year on school supplies.
My own daughter.
What the fuck, man? Yeah. I mean, like, how we're spending one, we have a Department of Education with thousands of employees who don't actually do anything. Right. But aside from that, just the revenues collected are paying teacher salaries, which are a joke, kind of. I mean, I think that the level, certainly it's people will say that it is it's a calling. So you shouldn't be worried about money. I'm like, okay, well, I can't eat calling for dinner, fuckface. You know what I mean? That's just an excuse to not pay somebody what they're worth. I think that you can see what people, communities, countries value when you look at how much they budget for it.
Yeah.
We budget a lot for soda and chips.
And teachers also don't have to be in the union. My wife, when I met her and while we were dating, when she was still a teacher, she was the only teacher in her school that refused to. She didn't pay union dues, and they came to her every year. She got a lot of flack for it, and frankly, a lot of teachers I think really didn't like her because of it. But her response was, "Tell me what kind of a raise we've gotten in the last 5 years," and it was like 1%, 0%, 0%, and 0.5%. And she's like, "Well, when you as a union start doing a better job, maybe I'll think about joining your union. But you're also sending me letters telling me I should vote for Hillary Clinton."
Yeah.
You know, so she refused to be in the union. And that's the other thing is teachers don't have to pay those union dues. You know, but yeah, our education system is absolutely freaking broken for sure. I will say it's very unfortunate in this litigious society that we're in too. My wife's been spit on, kicked, punched. You know, the things that we allow kids to do to our teachers and administrators in these schools, and the amount of times those kids get second and third and fourth chances to stay in the school is absolute bullshit. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, it's no wonder she wanted you to start the company.
Yeah. Well, when she it was August of 21. COVID had gone on for, about a year and a half at that point. She went to go back to school. She went in for some meetings in mid-August, and they announced that they were going to require them to wear masks again that fall.
Yeah.
And she came home. That was the day she came home, and she said, either you hire me or I'm going and getting another job, but I'm not doing it. Because it killed her. She generally just refused to wear it, but wearing a mask as a teacher of young children, they need to see a smile and facial. Frankly, teachers are so critical because a lot of kids, unfortunately, a lot of kids right now have a really terrible home life, and that teacher and that smile and that encouragement might be the only shining light in their life. And to cover that up with a stupid fucking mask was, but that's when she quit. She quit the next day, and that's when I hired her.
No, good for her.
Which that was a stressful moment because I was like, I don't know if we can afford to hire you, but
yeah,
it all worked out.
Well, how do you think a lot of us start out that way, hiring friends and family to do stuff, and it's not always true that friends and family are actually good at those things.
Right.
A lot of people had a lot of jobs at startup companies where they were malassigned, we would call in the military, and your job in that situation, especially if you're a founder, is to try to work yourself out of a job somehow. You know what I mean? Yeah. To find somebody that's more competent at that particular thing, not just for the growth and scalability of the company, but to make sure that you, as the person with the idea, go back to what you're actually good at. You know what I mean? Because, a lot of people want to be CEO, but if you're very good at making the thing, maybe that's what you should be focused on. The new, being the, I don't even know what you would call it, just idea guy, you know what I mean? Or the manufacturing guy or whatever it is.
Yeah, just because you're the founder actually doesn't even make you the right person to operate the company.
Right, yeah.
You're the idea guy. And that's how it is for us. So what I'll say about that is I'm trying to think if I'm making sure I'm making a true statement. I'm sure this is true though. I did not hire a single friend, quote unquote, in my company for the first 3 years. Only in this last year or so, we've hired a couple people that I'm friends with in town or whatever, but I didn't really hire them. They applied. I always tell my director of operations, hey, so-and-so applied. He's a really good person. Make sure they get an interview. Beyond that, you have to decide if they're qualified to work for you.
Yeah.
I know they're a good person. They're a good enough person to get an interview. My wife, she had to learn all of this. But she reports to Andrew, my director of operations. I don't weigh in on her pay, her reviews. She sits in on reviews. She has a boss at MKC, even though she's the founder's wife. I learned a lot of that stuff actually from Evan Hafer. A lot of things that I'm doing or have done in MKC have been from sitting around observing and talking to Evan about a lot of the early days in Black Rifle and mistakes made and things he did right and things he wished he'd have done differently. And several people, that was some of the best advice I got, was basically don't hire your friends. And that's not, 100% across the board that you have to do that, but
No.
It makes it, I do think it's good to have a level of, like now if we hire friends, there's at least one, if not two levels of bosses between that person and me.
I mean, it's good to have, especially if you're a front-facing brand, you definitely want to have the right culture and values at the shop, but it's a business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we have this is a problem that we have in broader culture as well. I call it like a confluence of competencies, because just somebody's good at something and then we'll take their advice on something completely unrelated. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Like somebody's a good actor, for example, and then they have a political opinion, no matter which side of the aisle it's on. People are like, see, this guy agrees with me, so who fucking cares? Right. There's a lot of people who agree with you and a lot of people who don't. And the fact that this dude pretends to be people on television has no bearing on whether or not he actually knows what the fuck he's talking about over here. And it's not just celebrities, by the way. We do this in all sorts of ways. It's almost like there's this thing called the Gell-Mann amnesia effect. And it's where you continuously see somebody be bad at something and then forget about it and then go back to them as a source of information again. It happens in legacy media a lot. Actually, the best example of it is New York Times financial page used to give stock tips. I don't know if they still do or not, but they were wrong all the time. And people would still go back to them, use their stock tips,
or freaking
lose
politicians.
money. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, I just followed Nancy Pelosi's. She made $133 million.
Yeah,
in 20 years.
She's a good one to follow.
But yeah, it's like just because somebody, as you mentioned, is a good guy or a good fucking military operator, or I worked with him in another company before. He was really good at that. Doesn't mean that. Like, if you're a good manager, you're a good manager.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But just having a skill set doesn't mean you have another skill set. It just means that you learned one skill set. Maybe you have the potential to learn another skill set. Like with your wife, doing customer service, if you can convince elementary school kids and middle school kids to calm the fuck down and do their homework, you can convince people in customer service that things are going to be okay, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely a transferable skill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think we were small enough with the fulfillment side that we were able to learn those mistakes when they weren't super, super costly. Mm-hmm. If we were to hire her to run all of our fulfillment today and she was walking out as a school teacher, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, you'd be fucked.
Yeah. But she was able to learn along the way with me, because I was frankly, I'm still learning, but was learning a lot of lessons then. I think building a company is the coolest, puzzle making exercise that you can possibly do. But a lot of it for me was immediately recognizing that I don't have expertise in certain areas, and then going out and seeking and being a good judge of character and seeking out the people that do have those expertises. For example, my director of operations came from Amazon. He was an officer in the military, went up through the ranks in Amazon, and was he was involved in hiring about 4,000 people and running the Spokane, Washington Amazon facility. Like, he was involved from the time they poured concrete to the time they moved in and put packages in there. Once I recognized his abilities and he was there and I trusted him, I completely turn over operations to him, and I just get a report from him on how things are going. Delegating responsibility, I think, is one of the hardest things to do, but it's the most important to grow an actual large brand. Yeah, if you try to control it and try to micromanage it, you are going to absolutely set a ceiling on yourself.
Yeah.
You can't break through.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, when you're talking, there's people that know how to do something, and then there's people who know how to scale that something. And that's not, sometimes it's the same guy. Most of the time it's not, to be honest. I mean, it's going to be rare that your director of operations or your COO or whatever is an expert at the thing, right? I wouldn't expect Tesla's COO or one of the social media companies COOs to be an expert in coding or technology.
Right.
No, he's an expert at fucking scaling and making sure that the right people in the right position, that workflow is going well, that distribution's going well, all that. That's what he is. He's a manager.
Yeah, right? when he came in, he didn't know anything about knives.
Yeah.
Other than what.
And you pick it up. Just from being around it, you pick
sure.
it up, right? But that's not the important part of the job.
No.
Because there's a fucking 80 people in the other room that know about knives.
But that's why he hires experts under him.
Yeah.
And why I'm still very involved in who we bring in when it comes to engineers, designers, all those different positions. Same thing in finance. The finance side is absolutely critical. Hiring the right people to watch your finances. That was probably the place we struggled most early on, was even just finding accountants and people that you can trust. And that's the hardest thing about growing a business from the beginning is you can't afford to hire those people in the beginning. So you have to find people that can come in and kind of pick the puzzle pieces up, and then have a strong enough backbone to walk in your office and tell you, hey, here's where you screwed up and where you haven't been paying enough attention, and here's what we need to do about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because if there are inefficiencies in the process, again, that's net revenue, and net revenue goes three places, I guess. One, back in your own fucking pocket. Two could be dividends to shareholders, and three, it's to company expansion. So
reinvestment.
If you want to grow, or if you want to actually make money doing what you're doing, and not just having revenue is great, but you got to make money at some point, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think people think that I'm getting rich or whatever, and it's like, well, I still have a house payment. We have been in a reinvestment storm for the last 5 years, where I am trying everything I can do to reinvest into the company and make it more stable, to not have to count on supply chains as much. All of our supply chains are domestic, I guess, except now for steel, and that's unfortunate. But that's because the last steel manufacturer in our country went bankrupt in January. The last steel manufacturer of steel that the knife industry uses. It's now coming from Austria and Switzerland. And that was a failure also of government. But the supply chain, even though our supply chain is domestic, it's still a real challenge. Getting quality, getting consistent quality, and not having to wait in line behind other people. And that's the thing we really struggled with in the beginning, was we wanted to get something made, and we had to sit in line behind the big dogs. And you're like, you're ready to go, and you have to wait 8 weeks for a PO to come in.
I mean, it makes it so much more complicated. We deal, on the hard AF side, we deal with box printing, can printing, and can filling, right? Those are the things that we need. Not to include distribution, but distribution's always there. You don't have to worry about that. So we need.
I guarantee at your size, you're sitting behind people in line.
Yeah.
That are bigger.
Oh yeah. Any state we open up in, it's White Claw and then us, and they're always going to get the priority because we're making a couple million cans at a time, or they're making probably like 20 million cans at a time. You know what I mean? So it's just the way it is. There's no way to get around that. And the issue with it is that, let's say I get a new account somewhere, or you make a new knife and your knife gets really popular, and you're like, oh, we need to make like 20 more thousand of these right now.
Right.
Now I've got to get in line behind this asshole, and it's going to be 6 months from now, and maybe it won't be hot by then.
Yep.
So I've got to decide if I'm going to invest all this money, get my place in line, which, by the way, you got to put 50% down half the time for that shit, to make all this stuff that I'm going to need 6 months from now, and maybe I don't need it 6 months from now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's gotten a lot of companies in trouble, and it's a very delicate
managing your
balance.
cash is the biggest challenge with that.
Yeah.
That's exactly why, against the advice of our own board, which they're now on board with it completely. They're seeing the benefit of it. They've been seeing the benefit. But what I did is I started looking at our entire supply chain, which is much more involved and complicated than what you just described for cans. Just so many more individual parts and pieces.
Yeah,
and
we only have the couple of parts.
Yeah,
That's
one
it.
part's missing with us out of a dozen.
Yeah,
and it doesn't
call
work.
it points of failure, I guess.
Yep.
In the engineering world, you would call it points of failure. So,
But I started looking at where can we get, for the least amount of capital expended, where can we get the biggest bang for our buck back in our margins? And it's not just about margins. You might look at something and say, hey, if we make that part, it's going to actually cost us 5% more than we're paying for it. But it's going to mean a massive change to our supply chain timeline, which means cash is laid out for less time. It allows you to be more nimble and react to the market quicker, good or bad. And that's what we're building. I also think too many people, I think in the past, this last 20 years has really, this narrative of like the American dream's dead. You can't get ahead. It's unfair. It's just the Amazons and Apples of the world. Like the small guy can't get ahead. I do think it's very difficult for sure, but I also don't think it was real easy for my grandma in the Great Depression. I don't think it was easy for the guy who was, driving fence posts in his new farm and ranch and had no power equipment. And 30 years later, he developed, a big farm. It's never been easy, and it's not easy now, but it's a real quitter's mentality to just say it's not possible to try.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
And the fact that we have been able to do this in Frenchtown, Montana, a tiny town in Montana, we don't have a manufacturing base. Like if we were based in Portland or Phoenix or somewhere like that, there would be employees around every rock that we could try to poach and steal. And that's been our biggest challenge has been when I need a high-level machinist or a high-level engineer, I have to go find them in the country and convince them that they need to move to Montana.
Yeah, you've got to pay a headhunter probably, right?
Yeah.
Which means, I don't know if you guys use these companies or if you do it yourself, but these headhunter companies, let's say I got to hire like an expert level machinist who makes, I don't know, $120 a year. I got to pay them 3 times that amount.
Yeah.
That's what the cost is, 3x what their fucking annual salary is to get that dude. Then I got to pay for him to move, which is another $50K.
Yeah.
Right.
We only did that for the first time this month with a financial guy. I did look into those and I just couldn't choke down the cost because you don't even know if that guy's going to work out. Now there's some guarantees involved in that if they don't work in 6 months that you get some of your money back or whatever. But yeah, and I've also found the guy for us in a certain role. And he's totally dead set. And then he goes and talks to his wife and says, hey, what do you think of moving to Montana? And it's off the table. Yeah. And so it's a real challenge. And the cost of housing in Montana is absolutely insane right now. It's just become so popular with Yellowstone and everything else. Everybody wants to be. Frankly, COVID drove the prices up like crazy there because people realized the places they were living were fucked and they wanted to get out of them.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't believe that shit either. I mean, we've built this company entirely in the post-COVID world. Like 100% of it has been in the post-COVID world. And about 70% of the time, and the vast majority of our real growth has happened when rates are up in the 7s and 8s.
Yeah.
So getting financing for stuff, good fucking luck.
Right.
You know what I mean? We've paid for most of it out of our own pocket. We've gotten some help here and there, but most of it has just been Ross and I paying for this shit or bootstrapping to sweat equity, like doing the work ourselves sometimes. Yeah. You can definitely do it. It sucks, and you're going to get maybe an ulcer, but,
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if it takes you an extra 5 years to get to a certain target revenue, but at the end of the day you own 40% more of that stock than you would have, you're going to end up potentially in a way better off position.
100%. That's right.
Yeah. It's the I interviewed a guy on my podcast here a while back, and I thought it was really I've heard this, but I never had like a real good source to run these questions by. And this guy was in the banking, real estate, finance world in Great Britain for his whole career. And I had heard that there weren't really access to small community banks in Europe. And so I was asking him about that, and he said, yeah, there are no like small banks. So the idea of startups in America, and this is something that there's a trend happening that we should be very, very concerned about in our country, which is the consolidation of banks, of bigger banks buying smaller banks, and your little tiny bank in the middle of Iowa in a town of 1,500 people, going away, or in Montana or wherever. Those banks are a source. There's been so many huge companies grown out of a bank where a guy goes down and gets a $1,500 loan for an idea to build a website that he's got. The fact that when my house burned down and I was in a real bind, divorced, I was able to walk into a small community bank in my little town of Frenchtown and talk to Ben and Bob and be like, guys, I'm in a pinch, but I need to borrow some money to save my house and my land and whatnot. And they were willing to work with me on it. When I built the building that we're in now on my property, I built a quote unquote commercial building on private property, of which I already had a loan on for a business that was completely unproven. Yeah. Just based off of my reputation and my handshake. Bank of America was not going to lend you that money. No. Capital One, they're not going to lend you that money. Trail West Bank or a community bank in whatever little town, those are absolutely critical to the American dream. Saving the farmer who gets wiped out for some reason, or has a tractor die or whatever, wrecks a pickup and needs $20,000 to get through until his crops are cut next year. Those are the community banks that are doing that stuff. And they're saving people's businesses and farms. And they're allowing innovation and small businesses to be born in the middle of nowhere. And that's what makes America more unique than any other country on this planet.
Yeah, I mean, it's core. It's foundational to us. It's decentralization is foundational here.
Yeah.
That's what, the Industrial Revolution had a big hand in scaling things, but what really scaled things was the availability of capitalism, and especially at the lower level, the decentralized level. Everybody remembers It's a Wonderful Life. It's like all the mortgages in town are in that bank over there, and we're out there investing it in low yield stuff on your behalf to make money on it, so that we can loan you that money, so we can loan the next guy money. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. And the more they get gobbled up, the more opportunity is for Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street to buy up all the residential real estate and then rent it back to us for the rest of our goddamn lives. That's really what's happening.
The building that we're building right now, this manufacturing facility, if it wasn't for Bank of Montana and Tom Swenson, Tom is the owner of the bank, and we were sitting in there talking to the owner about, and he asked 100 questions trying to understand Montana Knife Company and who we were and why we were successful. And at the end of the day, he had to decide if we were worth investing in, and again, we weren't going to get that from a big national bank. They would not understand our model. Hell, we make weapons. I mean, a lot of these banks, they don't even want to deal with gun companies or knife companies and people like that. A lot of people think that what makes America so unique or so possible for the American dream to be realized is the fact that we're free. Well, there's a lot of free countries in the world, or at least have to a pretty big degree. They're generally free. It's the freedom to be able to have an idea and go borrow some money and succeed or fail within that. That freedom does not exist in these other countries with banking, and so that's a big part of our freedom is that banking industry, and we really need to be. We should be very concerned because it's happening at an incredible. I want to say that guy told me there's like 60% fewer community banks today than there was 10 years ago. That's a major problem that I think is sneaking up on us, and we don't see it coming in the dark.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look out for. Before we get out of here, you guys are finishing up this facility in January. What's next? What are you looking forward to in the next year or two for Montana Knife?
Yeah, we're launching our folding knife. That's going to be a massive moment for us. It broadens our customer base. It's something that people have been asking for. It sounds much easier than it actually in reality is to make, just a pocket knife. But the tolerances involved in that, the fact that we're trying to manufacture everything under one roof, all of that has been a challenge. But I do think it's forced us to just get better and more detailed in what we're doing. But that's pretty much it. I mean, that folder is a big deal to us. And this new manufacturing facility, the fact that you can come, meet us and stand in that facility and take tours. And I do hope that it represents to people as they drive up to it, that giant American flag that we have flying above it, that the American dream is alive and real. Don't listen to the news and think that, it's impossible to get ahead these days. Like, I am nothing special. I was a freaking lineman, just a regular guy, no college degree, grew up, operating backhoes for my dad. It's you can be a C student and grow a big brand.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, when you say people have been asking about the folder, I assume you mean me.
Yeah,
because I think I've been asking since I fucking met you.
Everybody. The other thing that's big is we're expanding much more into our tactical line. That stuff's really taken off. We're getting more and more support through the military stuff, and then the culinary side. Everyone cooks. Our chef's knives. They make amazing gifts. These knives do. And I think the culinary. We're having our culinary knives drop in the week of Thanksgiving, so there's gonna be a lot of those available for people. I don't think there's much better gift because the people you give those to are going to use them every single day of their life. And again, we will sharpen it for free for you for life. So you can send your chef set to us or whatever knife it is, and we'll sharpen it for free.
Yeah.
So,
well, I look forward to seeing everything, but especially that folder. I need one immediately.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for that for a long time. I've had a bunch of folders. I carry one every day, most days.
Most guys should.
Yeah. I mean, I just,
men and women. I mean, even our small, lightweight fixed blade stuff. I always ask my daughters, like our mini speed goat or a mini war goat, like when a girl goes out for a jog or walking her dogs, if you're not carrying a gun, you should be carrying a knife.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would carry both if I were you.
Yeah.
Just to be, 2 is 1, 1 is none. That old thing.
I do know if you're going out in a pair of leggings and a sports bra for a jog, it's tough to carry a pistol.
Depends on the state, yeah.
But at the very least, have a knife on you.
Good. And you said those are going to be out in late spring, middle spring?
Yeah, April.
Okay, sweet.
Yep.
Good. Well, tell everybody where they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, just MontanaKnifeCompany.com. Our Instagram, at Montana Knife Company. My personal one's Josh Smith Knives. If you want to hear me rant once in a while about something. But no, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for coming today. I appreciate it.
You need to come up.
Yeah, we're gonna get up there eventually.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
Well, our grand opening of our new facility, the public grand opening is April 11th.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
So
we'll come up there.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
What's April 11th?
That's a Saturday.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. So the entire public's welcome to come to that.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll do that. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for listening. It's been Citizen.